Hello, is everyone able to hear me? Thank you all. Hope you all enjoyed your lunch, and I want to offer a warm welcome to our fabulous keynote speaker, Sophia Kianni. She's going to be chatting with us today, so welcome and thank you for joining us virtually.
Hey guys, I'm so excited to be doing this. I am really looking forward to speaking to you all today about kind of my journey in the sustainability space and how I've been able to evolve my impact over the last few years, working on climate cardinals, then going on to work at the UN, and now working on my startup Phia. Really with the goal of showing you guys how when you're working on climate, any job can be a climate job, and just some general learnings about focusing on sustainability and opportunities for entrepreneurship. So I can share my screen and walk you guys through a couple of slides that I have. And then we can I can talk through some examples, really outlining my journey. So I think we can switch to my slides. I still see myself on the screen, but I'm not sure if it's changing for you guys to the sustainability and impact slides. Okay, there we go. Okay, so just to start and to set some context, so I am a 22-year-old Iranian American. I studied at Stanford and I am the founder of Climate Cardinals, went on to work with the UN as their youngest youth advisor on climate change as part of the UN Secretary General's Youth Advisory Group on Climate Change. And then I'm now working on Phia, which is a sustainable fashion startup. And so starting with the very beginning of my journey and kind of what inspired me to start this work. So as I mentioned, I'm Iranian American, and growing up, I would visit Iran during the summers. And I was really struck by how awful the air pollution there was. I learned that temperatures in the Middle East were rising more than twice the global average, and that the average Iranian student, less than 5% of them could properly explain the greenhouse gas effect. And so I became really passionate about the idea of climate education. And even more than that, I became very passionate about the idea of translation, because my relatives in Iran really only spoke Farsi. And I realized that there was a huge lack of climate resources that were available in Farsi. And as I kind of continued on through high school, that was around the time when Greta and a ton of different youth activists started to organize with different youth-led climate organizations and grassroots groups. And so at that time is when I first started to get involved in kind of the school strike for climate initiatives. And so that's like the far right article you can see. When I was 17, I really first started out in more of like a public setting with my climate activism by going on a hunger strike at the Capitol as part of Fridays for Future. And so after a few years working with these different grassroots climate organizations and other youth organizers, I decided that I wanted to start my own nonprofit, Climate Cardinals, because no matter what I did in this space, I realized that we were pretty much only talking about things in English and only with other Americans. But I felt like it was really important for people who are being most impacted by climate change to have an opportunity to actually get involved in organizing and activism and decision making. And I actually ended up learning that out of the 10 countries that are worst impacted by climate change, 9 of them are a majority non-English speaking. And I also learned that 75% of the world doesn't speak English, but upwards of 90% of scientific literature about the environmental sciences is only available in English. All of which to say, during the pandemic, I decided to take a couple of my friends from high school, people who I had started working with on different with different climate organizing initiatives. And I started Climate Cardinals really with this goal of ensuring that everyone everywhere, no matter what language they spoke, could get involved in climate organizing and climate solution making. And so that kind of leads us to where we are today. So that was when I was a senior in high school. I recruited a couple of my friends to start Climate Cardinals with me. And very quickly on the first day that we launched, so I first applied for a $500 grant with the idea for Climate Cardinals, and we ended up winning the grant. So it was enough money to basically pay for us to get like a logo, a website, to create like some basic assets, throw up like an Instagram page, And then from there, I worked with my friends to create this TikTok video, basically telling young people who were interested that they could join our team as volunteers if they were interested in translating climate resources into different languages for community service hours. And so within a day of posting that video, it went viral and reached over 100,000 people, kept creeping up to 200,000, 300,000. And very quickly, we had thousands of young people signing up like within a 1 week period to join our team and to volunteer with us. And so very, very quickly, it became something where we started like just growing our team rapidly. More and more people started to work with us on the organization. And I started realizing just the importance of building structure and processes for being able to process that. And also kind of started to realize how important it was to start to like institutionalize a lot of the work that we were doing by forming partnerships and also fundraising. So over the last 5 years with Climate Cardinals, we've now grown this network into over 16,000 student volunteers across 80 countries with an average age of just 16. And we've been able to translate over 3 million words of climate information for our partners, ranging from UNICEF to the Yale Center for Climate Communications into over 100 different languages. And a big part of our work has also now been in fundraising. So we were able to get our anchor grant from Google, which has now allowed us to hire 2 of our first full-time employees. So Hikaru, who was one of the directors I basically started this program with when I was in high school, actually ended up graduating from Williams and joining as our first full-time executive director, which was so incredible. And so I think that through starting Climate Cardinals, I really realized how much I cared about sustainability and how much I cared about climate change, and also how much I believed really in the power of young people to have the ingenuity and the passion and the drive to push forward climate solutions, and to work on issues in a way where even when these issues have existed for years, there was really an opportunity for us to make an outsized impact. And so, as I kind of continued on through my college career at Stanford, I continued to work on Climate Cardinals, kind of like it was my night job, is what I told my friends, and on the weekends. And in my classes, I started to learn a lot more about the fashion industry. And so I learned this was like one quote that really stuck out to me in one of my classes, which was that every year the apparel industry alone causes over 1.6 billion tons of greenhouse gas emissions. And so as someone who like loved fashion, really cared about fashion, I started to become really interested in seeing in the same way that I had done with like Climate Cardinals of identifying this problem and working on a solution with other incredible young people. If there was an opportunity in the fashion space, also similarly to make an impact in creating a dent in this huge problem. And so that's kind of where the initial idea for Phia was born. And so my college roommate, Phoebe, and I both were really passionate about fashion and sustainability. And we started talking about how much we loved secondhand shopping. So we both loved going on like the Real and Poshmark. And we learned that buying clothes secondhand really offers this huge opportunity to shop more sustainably and also to get something at a fraction of the cost that you would get for retail. And so we were taking this entrepreneurship class and we started polling our classmates to understand why they didn't really shop secondhand. Like we like there was one day we went in front of the class and we like asked everyone like who here has bought something used online. And out of like an entire like 30-person class, I want to say maybe 2 people raised their hands, which was crazy. And it really was like due to a lack of like education of what platforms were available, what they could use, and like unfamiliarity and just a general challenge. And so our ideas really centered around shopping secondhand offers this huge opportunity to be more sustainable. How can we make it easier for people to do this? So that's how we came up with the idea for Phia. And so the initial product that we built is a browser extension where anytime someone is shopping, they can basically see resale alternatives for what they're looking for. So if you go to this link, if you guys have your computers, this works on desktop. So you can open your computer and go to joinphia.com. And you can try out the browser extension for yourself to get an understanding. And I can kind of walk you through a demonstration of how it works. And if you don't have your computer, you can go to joinphia.com on your phone and put in your email, and it will send you an email so that you can try it later. But basically, If you go through the example, you'll be able to see that buying an item used can reduce its carbon footprint by up to 82% and can also cut costs by up to 90%. And so obviously this is like on a very expensive watch example, but in a more realistic capacity, this is like an example that you can use. But for like a realization par dress or a reformation dress or a pair of Ray-Ban sunglasses or these items that people are really interested in buying, but they can't necessarily afford it, buying secondhand offers this amazing opportunity where it's really a win-win for consumers. I think when we were doing a lot of research, we realized that although people care about sustainability, the number one motivating factor for consumers really comes down to cost. So like 92% of consumers say that they just care about getting a good deal when they're shopping. And so really that means like saving money. And so making it where it's a win-win where they can save money and the planet has really allowed us to create the solution that hopefully aligns incentives for everyone and makes being more sustainable the easy choice. And so really, I think it's important to highlight that there's enough clothes on our planet right now to dress the next 6 generations of the human race. And so incentivizing a circular economy is going to be incredibly critical as we just see how rampant consumerism has become. And something I found really interesting is that I actually learned that around 80% of the clothes or the items that are listed on eBay are actually new. So they're not even used. Because a lot of people buy things and then they don't fit or they never use them. So you can literally get an item like brand new with tags, literally the exact same item, at a fraction of the cost, and it's more sustainable. And so we hope by like creating solutions that are really a win-win for consumers, we can make sustainability the easy choice. And kind of extrapolating that into what I think could be really key takeaways of this for other young people is that the biggest thorough line that I've seen from my work is that true success really comes from authentically wanting to give to others and to create positive value for the world. And so both with Climate Cardinals and Phia, they were both born from the standpoint of just like actual authentic problems that I realized in my everyday life that were validated to me by other incredible like young people who I was really excited to work with. And so I think that for me, identifying this guiding mission of realizing like I really care about sustainability and that's something like I want to dedicate my life's work to has allowed me to also evolve it through different phases of my career. So being able to work on climate from everything from a nonprofit to then a non-governmental like institution like the UN to now startup has really shown me that when it comes to climate, like any job could be a climate job. It was just first really critical for me to realize that I wanted to work on climate in the first place. And I think that also a big key learning for me was that so much of this work only was possible because I was able to really come together with an incredible group of people who were equally as motivated, if not more, and smarter than me, who were able to really iterate on the idea and create things that were able to solve problems for people. And so when I look at like Climate Cardinals and I see like Hikaru and Sophia and Carl and these other incredible young people who are now running the organization full time. And I similarly look at Phia and the team that we've been able to build. I think that the best thing that you can do when you're passionate about an idea or you're just starting is finding other incredible people that you would like love to work with and focusing on finding problems and creating solutions that actually genuinely create positive value for the world. And so for me right now, I'm really focused on really understanding that the future of fashion is nothing new. So I'm really excited to continue building Phia. And if you want to connect, you can follow us on Instagram, Phia Co. You can scan this QR code, and we're going to continue to document our journey as kind of college age female founders, understanding how we can really hopefully make our mark and an impact on the sustainability space. So thank you guys. I'm really excited. I think that it's really an incredible time period to be in as a young person. There's like never been an easier time to start building something that you're passionate about. And of course, like given the state of the planet and just how rapidly climate change has been accelerating, I think it's so important to rally the smartest young people in the world to work on these issues. So I hope that this was a helpful overview of kind of how my journey has evolved and what I've worked on and who I've worked on it with. And hopefully you can take away some learnings and inspiration and work on your own journeys in turning any job into a climate job. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sophia. That was so inspiring to hear your story, and we're so grateful that you were able to share this time with us today.
Of course, it was my pleasure. I hope you guys have a great rest of the conference and a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you guys all very much for engaging with us in our keynote address. Next, we're going to be heading into our Leading with Integrity panel, which is